my 540i was experiencing some issues with its timing chain. And the reason why, and a lot of people probably don't know this, and they think that it's just, BMWs are unreliable. Yes and no. So BMW 540i's, they had timing chain guide failures because they were made with really brittle plastic. And over time, that brittle plastic would just disintegrate. Mm-hmm. So
it's the exact same thing with the Mini Coopers.
The reason why they disintegrate is because BMW erroneously in that era, in the early 2000s to mid 2000s era, they had it in their minds that they said, well, we have really good oil. We have synthetic oil that we put in our cars, and you can run them to 10 to 15,000 miles. Mm-hmm. And then people are like, well, I got a new BMW. I can run it to 10 to 15,000 miles. That'll be great. That'll be just great. Problem is, when you say you can run to 10 to 15,000 miles, and then you have lease returns, and then they have more miles on them, they get 60, 70, 80,000 miles. People don't really follow those guidelines, and those guidelines were really on the leading edge of not safe for that sort of oil.
Plus, you have a car that has 60,000 miles on it, mm-hmm. and has only had 6 oil changes.
Right, or maybe 4.
Yeah,
right. So that's concerning. But the fact remains is that some of their materials they didn't know what would happen after that 60,000 miles. Because first of all, who cares? No, they're not going to do that sort of testing because that's lease return territory anyway. They're just going to get the new model. But they said that you have this super long oil life, and the car actually had this little readout mm-hmm. that said you have to do your oil in another 10,000 miles. And these timing chain guides, it was just a time bomb.
Yeah,
it was just insane. So your timing chain guides would disintegrate, go into your oil pan, mm-hmm. and then your timing chain would skip timing, mm-hmm. and your engine would eventually blow up. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So you can get to it before it gets that spot when it starts rattling. Mm-hmm. You definitely don't want to drive the car too much.
Nope.
But the 540i also had an issue where the oil pump bolts would back out. So the oil pump, the thing that's pumping all the oil, all the high pressure oil to everywhere in your engine, making sure the engine runs and making sure the engine doesn't basically seize, is it's just coming out like of its own volition, just protesting.
Nice.
So when I got this car, I wanted to make sure that these were the issues that the car had. So I took off the oil pan, which the lower oil pan isn't actually that hard to take out. It's like 12 bolts. You don't have to take off anything else. It's really easy to get to. It's just messy. I did it when it was freezing and whatever. But I'm not a martyr. I do it because I love it. So I don't need to toot my own horn, but do you know anybody else who would have done it? I don't think so.
I mean, I did the
Listen, man, nobody wants to one-upper here.
Did the pilot bearing in 50-degree weather in the rain.
That's 50 degrees. Ooh, that's
in the rain in 50 degrees.
That's a little chilly.
Yeah.
So I ended up taking off this oil pan, and all I saw were chunks of the timing chain.
Sweet.
I saw entire bolts backed out.
Nice.
And the nuts from the oil pump. So I decided to take this to a shop because I was going on vacation in a week after I did this. And I said, I'm going to take it to a shop. This is a shop I know, and they said that they could do it. It's like super cheap. Every other place said it would cost $5,000 to do it. I paid like $2,000 for the car. I'm like, I'm not paying $5,000 to fix it. Right. So this shop says we'll do it for $1,100. I'm like, okay, fine, let's do it. And I said, how long is it going to take? I'm going to be gone for 2 weeks. They said, yeah, it'll take a week or something. So I get the car back. It's my friend drives it back, and he's like, this car runs really weird. It doesn't seem like it's running on all the cylinders. And I give him a call. I'm like, my friend said, because I wasn't home yet. My friend drove it back. I said, is it running all the cylinders? He was like, oh, nah, there's like a bent valve in it. He's like, yeah, it's a bent valve. I'm like, and that's fine. Like, you let me drive the car home with a bent valve? Like, is that okay? That's fine. He's like, yeah, man, it's got a bent valve. I was like, okay, so basically I have to redo everything that I did, right? Just everything. So I ended up that was my fault. I could have went to the shop and complained and be like, what are you doing? And this is crap. But I take these things. like if you go to a restaurant and you get really bad service, a lot of people, they would say, you know, let me talk to your manager. This is unacceptable, blah, blah. Me, I just pay my bill, I give a tip, and then I never come back there.
Right.
So I did the same thing to this shop.
Nah. See, I'm the same way at like restaurants and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If it's like, you know, $2 or $3, okay, you paid over $1,000 to have this done, and they did it.
No. So here's my take on this. I gave them more than they were capable of, and it was my fault because it was iffy from the beginning.
Okay.
That because I don't think they've ever dealt with BMWs, and they were like, yeah, we'll try, but it was my fault for putting that on them. And even though I paid a lot of money to do this, it was basically like a life lesson. Like you probably shouldn't do this anymore,
right.
Or you should just do it yourself,
or just avoid BMWs completely,
So I did all of those things. So what ended up happening was I had to do the timing again myself because I had to take off the head. I bought another cylinder head, put it on the car, and the car was and the car ran right. I got everything on, but it smoked like it was on fire, and I was like, okay, this is a problem.
It was that fiery German passion.
It was the fiery, yeah, a definitely fiery German passion. They got it from the Italians. So it smoked so much, and I'm like, crap, is my head gasket blown? Like, because I got a new head gasket, and like maybe it didn't seal or whatever. So I double, triple checked everything, right? No, it was fine. It wasn't a head gasket blown. So I took off the intake manifold. Intake manifold was absolutely full of oil.
Nice.
Just full of oil.
Nice.
And I'm like, okay, well, I took out the intake manifold before and it wasn't full of oil. I don't know why it's full of oil now. So then I thought maybe it's a little valve on the back of the intake manifold called a CCV. It's a crankcase ventilation.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm like, okay, those go bad often. I'll just get a new one. Got a new one of those. Still smoke like crazy. I'm like, what the hell? What's going on here? So I show it to my friend, who also, he's like kind of a rancher, Danny from Arizona. A shout out to Danny. And he told me, he looked at the car, like I had pictures of it taken apart. And he's done one of these plenty of times. And he's like, dude, where's your air to oil separation valve? And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, there's a valve that goes behind the timing, behind the timing chain. And it's in the timing chain area, and all it does is it goes into this tube, and the tube goes into your intake manifold, and it separates the air and the oil. And I didn't have that; like it just wasn't there. So I was like, why? Well, why wouldn't it be there? So I figured it out. The shop, when they took it out, they must have broken it because it's a little piece that costs probably $7.
Oh,
right?
Man.
A little piece that cost $7, made of plastic, probably brittle, broke, right?
Big ups to BMW for that.
Big ups to BMW. When they installed it, they forgot.
Nice.
They most likely forgot, didn't know that was there, didn't order a new one, whatever. They forgot. So what I was doing is I didn't know that it was supposed to be there. I assumed that all the parts that were supposed to be in there are in there. They're just installed improperly, right? So I did a proper install. I put everything back, and since it was smoking, it was basically taking oil like directly from the crankcase and putting it into the intake manifold and then just burning it. Oh, so it was burning like a crazy amount of oil. So I had to do the timing a third time. So I had
time's the charm.
That's right. It's the charm. So I did the air intake separator, put all the timing back together again, right? And started the car, and it ran not great. And then it was a timing issue because those have a weird timing. So on most cars, when you take off the timing chain or you take off the timing belt or whatever, there's usually a way to lock the cams in place.
Right.
Lock the cams and the crank in place. Mm-hmm. BMW, there's no way to do this other than you have to have specialty tools. Mm-hmm. And the specialty tools I rented, but the specialty tools are third party. So they're exact, but they're not perfect. So, and also the engine was probably not perfect. So what happens is if you move the engine a little bit, some of the tools slip a little bit. You know, it's like it has to be on center. It has to be on center for everything to work. Because when you tighten everything up, it has to be, 100%. On Japanese cars, it's not a problem. You can because there's there's dowels and whatever. Like there's
Right.
no way you can do it wrong.
Right.
On BMW, there's like infinite ways you can mess it up. Yeah. And then there's the Vanos, which is variable valve timing thing. So you have to set that. So I ended up having a timing issue where it might have been I set the timing correctly, but the timing sensor, the crank position sensor that was on the timing cover, since I put some RTV on the timing cover, it skewed it just a little bit, like just a little bit,
Yeah.
right? And it was slightly off kilter, and it wasn't reading it correctly, so it gave me a check engine light for a timing. And I was like, dude, I sold it to my friend in Arizona. I'm like, can you pick this freaking car up, please? Like, can you just I'll take a loss on it. Like, I sold it for $1,000. I was into the car like $5,000.
Ouch.
And I was like, dude, can you just take this car? I don't care what you do to it. You can throw it off a cliff. I don't care. I am done with it. Like, I am done. And I wrote it up on Jalopnik. You guys can see it. But yeah, that was probably the biggest ordeal because this was like months and months of just nonstop work, and it never ran right. When my friend had it though, the car's pretty good, but yeah, it's just, I hear that, the car still has that timing issue, but it runs all right. And then my friend sold it to his boss or something. I don't know. But that car is just haunted. That's why I'm just swearing off BMWs.
Yeah, I enjoyed the Mini Cooper a lot, and I can't say that I'm gonna swear off BMWs, but for the foreseeable future.
So I mean, I say that, right? But I'm not against buying some BMWs, but I don't know. Just working on them. For those of you who work on BMWs, you have my sympathy, you have my support. You guys are not all heroes wear capes, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. So those are the true heroes. But